Okay, so this is new to me, making a video on here. However, breaking through barriers. Alright, so I really just want to share some insights that I have about Ayurveda and how we can use these ancient traditions and wisdom and philosophy to support us in different times and moments of our life. And so for anyone that is new to Ayurveda, Ayurveda translates to the knowledge of life, or the science and art of life, really, which I love about it, because a lot of health and understanding oneself, we're in a very technological world where numbers and facts and statistics and everything are so progressive and great to have, and also there is the art of the body, the whimsical being of ourself that just kind of flutters and flourishes and changes and all the things. So the art and science of life, and it's really just the subtle science of observation and awareness, and finding ways to harmonize with the internal self and the external world as well. And Ayurveda is really beautiful because it focuses on a very unique practice for everyone, and it really brings awareness to each of us are so different. And just because I have rashes and skin issues at this moment in my life doesn't mean that I am contained in that container or category for the rest of my life. It allows us to personalize our own healing practices and just understanding of where we're at different times in our life. And so a question that I received was something along the lines is, my dosha is a Pitta Vata, and I'm curious how I can, what tools or what herbs can support me for my stress. And that's a really great place to start. And if anyone is new to Ayurveda, there's so much to go into, so I'm going to try and keep it just focused on this train of thought here. But if you take a quiz online, there's many free ones, and if you need support, just let me know. But starting to understand your dosha, there's Prakriti and Vikriti. Prakriti is kind of your constitution of what you were born with, and then your Vikriti is kind of your current state of imbalance or disease, whatever you want to call it. And so let's say I'm using skin issues and rash issues for an example, because that's been a very dear part of my journey. But let's say that right now in your life you're having an outbreak of skin issues like irritation, rashes, and things like this, and this isn't really normal for you. You might be like, I've never had this in my life. That would be your Vikriti, so that's your current state of dosha or constitution, or just current state of being. And your Prakriti is what you were born with, kind of like your baseline of oh, this is how I've always been. So there's 3 doshas. There's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and depending on how long this video goes, I feel like I'll probably do a video for each dosha. And what I really want to focus on, the question that I was asked was, I'm Pitta Vata, how do I balance stress? And what immediately came to mind for me was, we might have an overall understanding of the general state of our being. However, the mind is also fluctuating between doshas, and this is called Mana's Prakriti, and so this is just our mental constitution. And this has been a really big doorway for me of understanding myself, of where I'm at. There might be things going on in my digestion or tissues or whatever it is, and then there's a lot happening up here, And in my personal experience, my mind is always fluctuating in different paths of emotions and states of being. So I really want to focus this little chat on the states of our mind and interweaving doshas and kind of understanding those as well. And so today I want to focus on Vata, and I'll give you like a little preview, synopsis. I don't know what the right word is, but so Vata, like let's say if Vata is out of balance, that's going to be like nervousness, like a lot of thoughts, emotions. Pitta imbalance is going to be generally like frustrated, angry, judgment, like critical thoughts going through your mind. And then Vata is going to be more of like sluggish, kind of depressed states, like not much activity happening in your mind. And those are all examples of out of balance doshas. And so today I want to focus on Vata and explain that a little bit. And if you see me looking down, I have some notes here just to keep me focused, because why I'm starting with Vata is I feel like my mental constitution at this stage in my life, I do feel a lot of Vata going through, which I think is kind of like a collective feeling that a collective state of being that I feel like a lot of people are experiencing right now, just with everything going on and having so many thoughts at one time. So so we're going to start with Vata. And Vata, so each dosha governs a certain system within the body. And Vata governs our nervous system. And it's composed of air and ether, so air and space. And throughout the body, a large spot of space or ether in our body is in our mind. And there's air, prana, breath taking place here, and so a lot of Vata energy does formulate up in the mind, or takes place in the mind in the beginning. So that's kind of an understanding of the elements that are interwoven with Vata. And when Vata is balanced in the mind, it's our creative outlets, it's our intuition, our clairvoyancy, our spiritual understanding, our way of tuning into like our expansiveness of being and understanding, really. And so when Vata is out of balance, we generally feel instability, agitation. There's like an influx of thoughts going on in our mind, and lots of changes in our mood, and really an overactive sympathetic system. So parasympathetic system is when we're kind of in that meditative state of relaxation, and sympathetic system is our fight or flight. And so when Vata is out of balance, we see an overactive sympathetic system. So we kind of always feel our heart racing a little bit and just kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen next? And generally, Vata energy is an outward direction. And so when we're out of balance in our mind through Vata, we tend to, energy kind of moves out of our body. So this is kind of a feeling of disembodied or disassociated with our own physical body. And for me, this has been a really big one. Being at home and kind of isolated from friends, there's lots of opportunities to hop on a video chat or something with friends, which I have a couple times. But honestly, I've found that when I feel into it, it doesn't fully feel right to me. Like when I get on a video chat, even this, I kind of feel like a little disembodied and like a little weird. Like I'm not like physically totally here and present with like that person. So that is another state. And also out of balance it kind of like shakes up our sense of security and belonging to the material world, because we're like so kind of in our thoughts that we're like really searching for ground, you know, again going back to the elements of it being composed of air and ether, you know, we're really like floating free floating in our states. And so an important thing to know is that elevated states of Vata also inhibit Agni, which is our digestive fire. And so generally when we're in this state of being, we'll have maybe some complications with our digestion, and also just it being irregular. So maybe like 1 or 2 days you might have diarrhea, and then the next day you're like totally fine, and then you get constipated and you're like, what is going on? So it's really just, it's irregular. It's kind of all over the place, again, with that air motion. And then, you know, it links to how we digest food, right? It's part of our Agni, our digestive system. And this also is very interlinked with the way that we digest our experiences in life. And our experiences, our food, everything is kind of compromised in this state of being where we're not really able to absorb information and digest it and kind of like come up with a way to process it, if that makes sense. And so in my studies and gaining understanding, sorry, this piece of paper is floating everywhere. I got one stick to hold it down. So in my studies, getting a greater understanding for these states of being is often like, okay, why do we feel this, and kind of how did we get here? You know, it's kind of parallel to a lot of things in life. You're just kind of like in this reality and you're like, how the hell did we get here? So yeah, how do we get to this manas prakriti, this mental constitution of Vata? And a lot of it comes from just overexerting ourselves, overworking ourselves. And a big one, which I focus on a lot, is just like overcommitting ourselves to too many things at once, you know. And that's kind of that fluctuation. We might get a lot of energy and excitement, like, oh yes, like let's set up a phone call today, let's do this today, I'm gonna make some art. And then that energy kind of fades and fluctuates and dips, and then you're kind of like, no, I'm stressed out that I committed to all of these things. So that can stimulate Vata. And then travel and transition is a huge thing with Vata as well. So if you're generally someone who travels a lot, this can really provoke Vata state of mind, and also just transitioning in life. And it can be really simple things, you know, even just like moving from one room in your house to the other, or, you know, whatever it might be, just a transitioning of a relationship, you know, a friendship, a lover, whoever it might be. These are all states of transition that stimulate Vata. And another few that increase Vata is overstimulation. So this can be technology, which is a huge one that's coming up for me. You know, we're like so overly stimulated by looking at our phones and our computers and like all the books to read and all this stuff, podcasts, and also overstimulation, like going to a concert and like a really big crowd and like noise and lights, and you're like, ah. And then just like loud noise in general, anything that just kind of feels like you're really like hypersensitive in this state of being, you know. You're just kind of like, wow, this feels like a lot, you know. And then other things that can provoke this state of being is Vata provoking foods. And so that's going to be foods that are like dry, rough, raw vegetables, dried fruit, crackers. Just think of like air elements, you know, like dry and like really light. And so understanding some of this, which I know it's a lot, is the next step from here is just kind of like, okay, how do I bring this back into balance, right? And so I just want to share with you guys a couple practices that I do and that I find to be really helpful in this state of mind. And a huge one that I start with is food. So again, things that provoke Vata are like the dry kind of crackers, light foods, things like that. So focus more on heavy foods and try and make most of your meals warm, and like liquidy, oily is good too. So just kind of those grounding, nourishing foods. So examples of that could be like oatmeal with milk and maybe some ghee in it or something along those lines, and maybe skip the nuts and dried fruit in there. And then you could do, like, I'm a big smoothie girl, and there's just moments in time where I'm like, this cold smoothie is not the right thing. But there's many smoothies that you can warm up, which is really fun to experiment with. And one that I really love is doing almond milk or flax milk, whatever you use, and putting this all in the blender with apples and cardamom, cinnamon, kind of like stimulating, warming herbs and spices. Blend that up and then go ahead and heat that up, and it's kind of like, you just gotta try it. It's so good. So warming foods is a really big one. And then Vata is very irregular, like I shared before. And so a good practice for that is just a daily routine. And this can just be like, I don't know, sometimes when I hear that, I just like roll my eyes. I'm like, okay, I get it. I should get a routine going, you know? And an important part about Vata is we're in this state of mind where it's best just to simplify things, you know? Like, our minds feel so complicated and like cluttered, that focus on the simplicity of things is really the key here. And so for daily routine, you know, you could be like, okay, I'm gonna balance this state that I'm in, you know, I'm gonna exercise an hour a day, and I'm gonna meditate every morning for 30 minutes and like make myself a really good meal. Boom, go. The reality of that is when we bite off more than we can chew, it often backfires, you know, and it actually sends us kind of more deeper into that state of being. And so I invite you to just be gentle and compassionate with yourself and graceful during this state of mind, and inviting you to focus on, you know, one thing to start off with, and kind of give you like 3 top things that Vata finds a lot of stability in. And so one of those is going to be waking up at the same time every morning. And this one is one that I have been trying to do. And it's hard. It really is hard because I tend to be a night owl sometimes, and so this can be challenging. But, you know, setting my alarm clock to 7 a.m. every morning, and like, for instance, last night I was up until 2 a.m. like dilly-daddling on my phone, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to change my alarm clock. You know, I need more sleep than this. And there's 2 ways to perceive, there's more than 2 ways, but 2 ways to perceive that experience is, you know, you can either accept it and be like, okay, I'm gonna set my alarm clock back a little bit, or you can move forward and be like, you know what, I'm gonna get up at 7 and keep my rhythms in pace, and I'm gonna take a nap tomorrow. You know, I'm gonna lay down for a little rest. So those are options. And for me, you know, I wake up, and most of the time with my alarm clock, I'm just like, no, like, my eyes are not opening. But I find that like a really good opportunity and an edge for growth for me, of just like moving beyond, I can't get up right now, you know, and just like moving beyond that. And so something helpful that I do is I'll just turn on a song right away on my Spotify, or do a meditation, or maybe just start a podcast that I've been like wanting to listen, that's like a light podcast, you know, like maybe not open your day with like history of World War II. But just some like slow moving things that you can get yourself up. And then another practice is just eating meals at the same time every day. This one's hard for me, and so I find that it's not the best place for me to commit to and find stability, but for a lot of people it does really work, you know, like 9 a.m. I'm going to have my breakfast, and like 11 to 12 I'm going to eat lunch, and just keep kind of that separateness of that routine stable. And then another one is going to sleep at the same time. And this is kind of a side tangent that I'm just going to briefly touch, but our bodies are primarily detoxing from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. This is like a Pitta time of the day. And so sleeping and not doing anything from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is very important for our bodies to have time and energy to do what it needs to do to come back to equilibrium. And of course, this isn't accessible to everyone. My sister has 3 kids, you know, so she's kind of on their schedule of when she goes to sleep and when she wakes up. And so these are just examples. However, there's many other things that we can do, and also just having compassion for ourselves, you know. If I get my best creative inspiration at night, like, I'm not going to beat myself up that I can't get to sleep at 10 p.m. every night, you know. I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to draw with some freaking paint tonight. So yeah, that's routine is a big one. And then breath work is also something that I've found really helpful in my practice. And so I want to share with you a breathwork practice that is very balancing for Vata, and this is So-Hum, S-O-H-U-M. And with this breathwork, it's when you inhale, you're going to be internally and mentally saying so, and when you exhale, you're going to be mentally and internally saying hum. And if you can keep that going throughout the whole meditation, that's ideal, because it kind of focuses your energy, and that's kind of the general effect of this meditation, is to calm your mind, yet simultaneously focus and sharpen your mind as well. And so inhaling, saying so, exhaling, saying hum internally, and this just translates to I am that pure awareness. And something helpful for me in breathwork is including visualization when I do breathwork. And so for this exercise, when you inhale, just imagining starting from the front of your body. And so inhaling from the front of your body up into the center of, I think it's the first Wednesday of the month, they do the sirens. Nice back noise. So when you inhale, bringing your awareness to the front of your body and up into your brain, and you can imagine this as your brain or maybe your crown chakra, whatever resonates with you. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but okay, so bringing energy up to your crown chakra, pausing there, and as you exhale, saying hum internally, sending that energy and bringing your awareness as it floats down the back of your throat, down your spine, and coming all the way down to the base of your tailbone and to the ground. And then again, when you inhale, following that breath from the base of your spine up into the front of your body, up through your chest, and up to the crown chakra or brain, however you want to visualize it. So that can be really helpful as well. Another good breathing technique is Nadi Shodhana, which I'm not going to go into too much, but it's just the practice of alternate nostril breathing. And so you can look that one up. Just Google alternate nostril breathing, and that just balances the two hemispheres and kind of opposing states in the mind. And then yoga, which for me nowadays, yoga just really symbolizes how am I going to move my body today? How am I going to connect with my physical body and create movement or awareness in my physical body? And so for Vata, you really want to focus on slow, steady, smooth movements and holding poses for a shorter amount of time, however, creating more repetition. So, but that would be like sun salutations, things like that are really good to do for Vata, grounding, and then just focusing on really grounding grounding poses, so like warrior, wide-legged pose, cat-cow, you're on all four limbs, like super stable and touching the earth. And so those can be really good ones. And, moving in some way just really creates, it clears stagnation in the body and dissipates tension. You're creating more movement, more fluidity with your body. And the movement is important to move energy through your body and kind of like transcend it into another state. That is so loud. I'm so curious if it's going to be heard on the video. Okay, this is getting long, but so another thing I want to touch on is marma points. So this is pretty much like acupressure. So no needles, just your own fingers. And so a good grounding point for Vata, if you take your fist, I am forgetting the name of this. If I think about it, I'll put it in the comments, or you can ask me. But to make a fist, and where your middle finger lands is the point, and it's almost to the center of your hand, but actually like a little bit over, closer to your thumb. And so that's the point here. And so this spot in your body is linked to your heart center, to your lungs, to your respiratory system. And this is a really good point actually for these moments in time. But yeah, so just massaging this spot on your hand, and for whatever amount of time is available, really, like no pressure for time here, but I would say like 5 minutes, turn on some cool jazz, some like really nice grounding music, and massage this area. Another step, kind of I think about in yoga and classes, they're always like, you can stay here, or you can lift your right foot above your head and grab it with your left arm, like that advanced pose. But you can massage this area with some warming oil, and so that would be like sesame or almond oil or something like that, and you can add like eucalyptus or whatever smells you add to it, and then just circular motions on that spot. And linking with oil, another practice that I do is abhyanga, which is just self-massage. And so for the best oils for Vata are going to be warming oils. So sesame is like my go-to, almond oil is also great. But abhyanga is just self-massage. And so 2 ways that I include this in my practice is you can either do full body abhyanga, which generally I just grab my sesame oil and I stand in the tub, and you just lather your entire body with oil, and however much energy you have that day, you can just like lather and sit there, or you can like rub around and just like feel different bones and things in your body, which is kind of fun to explore. And then you can just let it sit for like 20 minutes. Again, find some music, podcast, book, silence, whatever you want to do, and then you can rinse it off in the shower. And then another option is, I like to do this one at night, but you can do sesame or almond oil on your feet. And I like to do like oregano oil or something with it too, since I'm like already at my feet massaging them. It's like so great to bring all that oil circulating up to your body. But yeah, so massaging your feet, and then just choose a pair of socks that you're like, you are my designated oil baby socks, you know? Oil your feet, put your socks on, and go to sleep. Like that is really good too, and it's that warming aspect that helps there. And then Nasya oil, which I posted a photo of this tincture a few days ago, but this is a medicated oil that you can put a few drops into your nose, and you just like drop it in and then like and breathe it up into your nose, and it goes up to this pathway, this channel, and it's really good for promoting mental clarity, which again, Vata is very all over the place. So mental clarity, and it also nourishes tissues going up into our brain. And it really, if you think about, you know, we have all of these like orifices and holes in our body, and like our nose ingests so much and really deals with like so many things throughout the day of what we inhale, pollutants and smells and all this stuff. And so for me, it's like, wow, I should be caring for my nose holes, you know? So Nasya oil, it's best to take in the morning on an empty stomach. However, like sometimes I'll do it at night, and you know, it's fine. And in specifically, Nasya oil should not be taken by pregnant women, or if you're menstruating, you can exclude this practice. And just like prefacing anything I share, I'm in schooling right now to become a licensed Ayurvedic practitioner. However, I don't have my license, and so whatever I say is not like promising healing or any, like, I'm gonna go over herbs and stuff like that. And if you are pregnant, if you're menstruating, maybe do a little bit more research of if it's okay to use or any other medications you're on or anything like that. So I just wanted to share that. So next is herbs, which we are almost done. So a lot of times when we feel imbalances in our body, you know, we're kind of like, what can I do? What can I take to feel better? And oftentimes, if you're connected with like herbal medicine and stuff like that, you go to like, you know, what herbs can I be taking? What tinctures, what teas, and all this stuff. And I love the herbs full-heartedly, and in my perspective, I really think that the healing starts, and the most potent healing is done from within, and things that we can do mentally, breathing, yoga, you know, with our physical body. However, there's great moments to like add herbs in as a exterior support and additional support too. So with Vata, with Vata, herbs that are supporting are going to be nervines and adaptogens. And so nervines are those that are good for the nervous system. And then I'll go over those. So nervines, some examples of that would be like chamomile flower, lavender, lemon balm is really good for like stress and calming. And then adaptogens, which those really bring us back to balance, you know, bring us back to equilibrium. And herbs that are good for that are like ashwagandha, tulsi, like licorice root is another good one for bringing us back to balance. So those are some examples of herbs. And I think I'm gonna stop there. That feels like pretty good for me. It's pretty good for me. It feels like pretty complete for what I want to share in these moments. There's obviously like so much to share about all of this, and I want to do 2 more videos eventually about Pitta and Kapha states of mind. However, my intention with making this video was just to share some insights that I have, and some of my understandings and perspectives about our states of being and our mind. And hopefully this can be of some support to you and some nourishment for your heart and your mind and your soul. and also just like extending myself out to you if there's anything, any questions that you have, or any support that you need. I will try my best to meet you where you're at, and if I don't know the answer, then I'm really excited to research it and come up with a couple options or insights. So yeah, thank you for witnessing me in my first IGTV video. Blessings on your day. Love you all.